all differ. Some clubs have challenging table topic sessions. Other clubs ring a bell every time and all is ready. But only one or two excel in both communication and leadership. Here to share some of his observations is Jack the Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests. One day, early one morning, I was driving into a town. I had a business appointment. It was about 6:30 in the morning. I pulled over to the side of the road and take a little nap. I was just dozing off. And what time is it? The jogger was jogging up and down, and I told him it was 6:30. He went. I settled back. What time is it? Oh, it's about 25 to 7. You know. I looked up and I saw a lot of guys jogging toward. So I put a note on my windshield. I said, I don't know the time. Got back in the car, leaned back. Sir, it's 7:15. There are some similarities between naps and Toastmaster meetings. In the first place, instructions should be clear. If I wanted to nap, I should have written, please, let me sleep. Secondly, naps and meetings should flow from beginning to end without interruptions. They should not be turbulent. The Toastmaster agenda is a time-tested program that focuses on communication and leadership. The communication portion highlights speeches and evaluations. These are supported by various leadership roles. Speech assignments are specific projects with definite time limitations. It is obvious our speakers choose their subjects thoughtfully. It is obvious that they rewrite and rehearse their speeches. It is obvious that they evaluate from their evaluations. We should be proud of our speakers. Likewise, our evaluations are consistently superior. Occasionally, an evaluator gets crossed up, like the cross-eyed judge with three dependents. He looked at the first one and said, how do you plead? The second one says, not guilty. Judge says, I wasn't talking to you. The third one says, I didn't say anything. Toastmasters is where leaders are made. It is a well-established management principle that future leaders carry out supporting roles superbly. The simple, subtle skills learned supporting our speakers today can be used in the real world tomorrow. The immediate payoff is immense. Unfortunately, this is where morning and evening clubs begin to falter. On the other hand, noon clubs tend to run like precision drill teams. Most clubs start on time. They give the Pledge of Allegiance and introduce visitors. In the interest of time, some clubs leave the visitors' comments until the end of the meeting. The first stumble usually comes when the Toastmaster of the day steps behind the lectern and mumbles their name and speech title. Or else they blurt out a hastily written introduction. Our next speaker is Bertha Belch, who lives in Africa. Tonight is a special occasion when we can settle back and listen to Bertha Belch all the way from Africa. An introduction should be a mini speech with an opening, a body, and a close. Calling on someone is is different from an introduction. It is a simple statement. Evaluating Lloyd Smith will be Jack Bevere. Jack, please tell us what Lloyd's objectives are. Regretfully, Jack prattles and babbles instead of reading the objectives. The biggest stumbles occur when explaining the duties of the timer, the hour counter, and the grammarian. Explanations are for the benefit of first-time visitors. Explanations should be concise and understandable. We want visitors to know what is going on. The timer is usually the most confusing. Sometimes the timer sounds like the blonde who comes in all confused because she's been asking people what time it was all day, and they kept giving her different answers. The purpose of the timer should be unambiguous. It's like the Godfather wanting to give his son a 9mm pistol because he was going to take over the family. And the kid wanted a Rolex. And he says, no. He says, you're going to run the gang, you're going to run the family. He says, you're going to get married to a beautiful gal, a beautiful lady. You're going to have beautiful bambinos, but one day you're going to come home and you're going to find her in bed with some other guy. What are you going to do? Look at the Rolex and say your time's up? Explanations should be clear, concise, and memorized. I am the outcomer. I will be listening for odds, ers, ums, and audible sounds and speakers and used when they are thoughtless. I will give my report at the end of the meeting. I will end my observations with the ending reports. They are often muttered and tedious and sometimes confusing. My grammarian report is always a mishmash. The rules of grammar befuddle me. Recently, a college student expressed my confusion when a professor was explaining two positives never make a negative. From the back of the room, some kid said, "Yeah, right." Another stumbler was never end a sentence with a proposition. You have all heard Winston Churchill's famous example. This is the sort of English up with which I will not quit. I could never remember that rule until I heard a story about a middle-aged guy who wasn't really living up to his manly expectations. And this was before the day of Viagra. So he had to go to a witch doctor. And this guy did the smokes and the chants and so on and so forth. And he said, once a year, you count 1, 2, 3. And it'll come to life like you were 18 years old. And so that night he goes home and he jumps in the shower and he shaves and he puts the aftershave lotion on. And he crawls in bed and snuggles up to the back of his wife. And he says, 1, 2, 3. And sure enough, she rolls over and says, what did you say 1, 2, 3, 4? Mr. Toastmaster.